everyone, and thanks for watching Edupedia word videos. In this video we are going to start a new part related to consumer awareness. In this chapter we are going to see the following points. First, we are going to start with some definitions. Then we are going to find out consumer awareness, then the need for consumer awareness, consumer redressal system in India, and by the end we are going to discover the institutions to deal with consumers' grievances. The remaining portion will be explained in the next video. So let's get started. First, let us know the meaning of a consumer, goods and services, and consumer awareness. So who is a consumer? To begin with, let us know the definition of a consumer. A consumer is the buyer of goods and services. The user of goods and services, with the permission of the buyer, is also treated as a consumer. But a person is not a consumer if he or she purchases goods and services for resale purpose. What are goods and services? Goods are those products which are manufactured or produced and sold to consumers through wholesalers and retailers. Service means service of any description which is made available to the potential user with respect to the provision of facilities in connection with banking, finance, insurance, transport, supply of electrical or other energy, housing, construction, water supply, health, entertainment, amusement, etc. It does not include any service rendered free of charge or under a contract of personal service. What does consumer awareness means? Consumer awareness refers to the combination of the following. 1. The knowledge of the product purchased by the consumers in terms of its quality. For example, the consumer should know whether the product is good for health or not, whether the product is free of creating any environmental hazard or not, etc. 2. The education about the various types of hazards and problems associated with marketing of a product. For example, one way of marketing a product is advertisement through newspapers, television, etc. Consumers should have proper education about the bad effects of advertisement. They must also verify the contents of the advertisement. 3. The knowledge about consumer rights. This means, first, the consumer must know that he or she has the right to get the right kind of product. Secondly, if the product is found out to be faulty in some manner, the consumer should have knowledge of claiming compensation as per the law of the land. 4. The knowledge about consumers' own responsibilities. This implies that consumers should not indulge in wasteful and unnecessary consumptions. Now, let's move to talk about the need for consumer awareness. The market today is flooded with very large number as well as varieties of goods and services. The number of producers and final sellers of the commodities have also increased many folds. So it has become very difficult to know as to who is a genuine producer or seller. It is particularly more possible for consumers to personally come in contact with the producer or seller. Moreover, in the age of advanced information technology, the physical distance between consumer and producer or seller has also increased, since consumers can get their commodities at doorstep by looking orders over telephone or through internet, etc. Similarly, from among large varieties of commodities, it has become very difficult to know as to which one is genuine. People Think about a product which has appeared in some advertisement must be good, or the producer, whose name is known through advertisement, must be selling the right product. But this may not be true always. Much information is deliberately hidden in certain advertisements to mislead the consumers. In case of baked food products and medicines, there is an expiry date which implies that the particular product must be consumed before the date and not at all after that date. This information is very important because it involves the health of the consumer. Sometimes it so happens that either such information is not provided or the seller deliberately did not give the information since the consumer did not ask for it or notice the inscription written on the product. It also happens many times that the consumer buys goods and services without taking the bill, or the seller does not provide the bill. This is done to avoid paying tax on the product to the government. Such a tax is value-added tax, VAT, that is to say, a type of tax that is placed on a product whenever value is added at a stage of production and at final sale. If this tax is included, then price of the product will be higher because of the tax, and accordingly it will be acknowledged by providing the bill. But in order to attract the consumer by selling the product at a lower price, the seller deducts the tax and so does not provide the bill. Just because the price is less, the consumer also does not bother to ask for the bill. Such practice creates two serious problems. One, the government is deprived of its tax revenue, and two, the consumer may suffer if the product comes out to be faulty and he or she cannot even return the product or file a complaint since there is no bill to give proof of purchase. Another major issue is that the consumers are not united. Producers have become stronger and organized because there are producers and traders associations to protect their interests. But the buyers are still weak and unorganized. As a result, the buyers are duped and deceived quite often. Because of the above arguments, it is very important for consumers to protect themselves from the unfair trade practices of the traders and service providers. They need to be aware of their rights as consumers and use them promptly. It should be noted that consumer awareness is not just only about consumers' rights. It is as well known fact that many consumers around the world have been indulging in mindless and wasteful consumption because of their money power. This has divided the society into rich consumers and the poor. Similarly, many consumers are also not bothered about the safe disposal of waste after consumption is over, which causes environmental pollution. By agreeing to pay a lower price for the product without asking for the bill, many consumers indirectly help the sellers to avoid paying tax to the government. Hence, there is also need for consumer awareness to educate the consumers about their responsibilities. Consumers also need to act more responsibly and join hands with the government. What about consumer redressal system in India? There is legal and administrative machinery working in the field of consumer education in India. It is important for you to understand it. Consumer redressal system is a system under which the consumers can file a complaint in a consumer court and demand justice when they are cheated by the sellers or manufacturers of the commodity or service they buy. It comprises of the laws to protect the interests of the consumers and institutions to enforce the laws to uphold consumers' rights. Thanks to the government, we have consumer laws made through legislations in India with a special focus on consumer education. The purpose is to help the people understand their rights and responsibilities as consumers and to redress their grievances. There are also existence of institutions in the form of government departments and consumer courts to deal with the grievances of the affected consumers. Let us discuss them now. Government legislations. We have had several government legislations in India even before independence to protect the rights of the consumers. But Consumer Protection Act 1986 CPA is the most important and gives you as a consumer all the support and guidance against violation of your rights. CPA is specifically designed to protect consumer interest. There are a couple of other legislations aimed at providing consumer protection enacted after independence, like Prevention of Food Adulteration Act, PFA 1954, the Essential Commodities Act 1955, and the Standard of Weights and Measures Act of 1976. The CPI was enacted with the objective of providing cheap, simple, and quick justice to the millions of consumers in the country. It ensures justice which is less formal, involves less paperwork, cut delays, and is less expensive. CPA applies to all goods and services unless specifically exempted. It covers the private, public, and cooperative sectors. It also empowers a consumer to hold up municipal authorities in consumer courts if they fail to provide all the services ranging from street lighting and drinking water to drainage and health. Among other measures included in CPA, some recent ones are: consumers are allowed to decide whether they want to seek redressal. A company cannot insist on being liable to be tried only in a court of its choice. Consumers are allowed to sue service providers of a company for passing on their personal information to salesperson, for example, banks, insurance company, etc. Real estate developers are classified as traders and liable to be tried in a consumer court. Overseas agencies operating through e-commerce sites on the internet or telemarketing are not allowed to sell their products unless they maintain an office in India. They have to organize the inspection of goods prior to purchase or refund goods within 30 days. Officials and stakeholders like state government, Department of Post and Telecom passport offices, municipal services, central government health scheme, and railways are demanding exemption from the act, fearing they will have to face a barrage of litigation. Now, let's talk about the institutions to deal with consumer grievances. The citizens of India have an institutional machinery to deal with consumers' grievances, working at all levels: national, state, and district. There are two types of institutions: government councils and consumer courts. Besides this, there are also several non-governmental organizations, the NGOs, registered under the government law, which provide various kinds of support to the aggrieved consumers. As for government councils, you can read the following flowchart to know the government councils working at national and state levels. As shown in the chart, there is a Central Consumer Protection Council, CCPC, at the national level, which is headed by a central minister in charge of the consumer affairs in the central government at New Delhi. At the state level, there is a State Consumer Protection Council in each state of India, which is headed by a state ministership charge of the consumer affairs in the state government. As for the consumer courts, I want you to read the following flowchart to know the types of consumer courts working at national and state and district levels. Well, as given in the chart, there are 3 layers of consumer courts in India. At the bottom is the District Consumer Forum, DCF, at the district level in the state. There are 604 district forums in the country now. At the mid-level, there is a State Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission. There are 35 state commissions in the country. Finally, at the top, there is an apex body known as National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission, working hand in hand to provide cheap, speedy and simple redressal to consumer disputes in the country. The consumer court is quasi-judicial in nature and is directly accountable to the people. The central and the state governments are responsible for making policies with respect to the working of these courts. This is the end of this video. As I said before, the next portion will be explained in the next video. Thank you very much for your attention.